Good evening, everybody. Hi.
You want to start?
No, go. You can start. Good. Yeah, but I figured the director should do the welcome, and then I just send it to me. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Are you ready to begin?
This is the introduction. Woo! Oh, I can do Girl Scout.
Thank you, Diane. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our graduation. Yeah, I graduated a long time ago. Welcome to our reunion dinner. We're so delighted to welcome you here. I'm Suzanne Spring. The students call me B for my middle initial, little b, so feel free to call me B instead of Suzanne. I would like that very much. It's my family name. And one of the things that we say about OUS is that it's a family. And one of the things that we've learned from y'all over this weekend is that it was a family to you, and it was the place that you came to. So we're so delighted that you've come back. And Frank's going to say a few words and introduce himself, and then we have a little something special before we begin our family dinner together.
Thank you, B. Hi, good evening. Frank Kwan. I'm working as a Senior Associate Director for OUS. This is my 6th year here, and I'm so glad to be part of this community, be a part of this family. And the legacy you have built for us is so strong that I know we're building, continue to strengthen the student OUS scholars here. And it's hard to believe that we talked about this event almost 2 years ago, because we know our 50th is coming up. And so Frank, our former director, of the Frank and Frank Enterprises, we talked about how we're going to get this done a couple of years ago. And with great help from alumni relations, from Dean of Faculty and Provost Office, to really help us plan this momentous occasion. And so we're excited, for all of you to join us tonight. And but we couldn't do it, without just everybody, like B and me and Romelia and Marta, who's our former coordinators, and a lot of folks across the campus that help us as well. And one person in particular.
We would very much like to thank. So the students in OUS have a couple of words they use to describe other students who are part of the OUS family. And one of those is faux US, for those students who are OUS but don't hang with OUS. And maybe you had a couple of those in your day. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's another name called no US, which are the students who are absolutely central to the family but aren't part of OUS. And one of the things that we know about the person who made tonight possible and everything this weekend possible is that she is at the heart of this family, and her name is Ronnie McFall. She graduated in '89, and she came back and worked in admissions, and then she left and she came back. So there's some way that we can keep pulling her back. She is incredibly gracious and generous. I'm sure you all have learned that in the time that you've known her as a student yourselves, and also through the whole reunion process. But she is wickedly funny, and she's a truth teller. And we honor her and love her very much. And we just want to say thank you with a couple of things for you. So would you come up, Ronnie?
Good evening. I can't really describe with words how I feel right now. Having been a student here at Colgate and working in the admissions office in the early 90s, I had the responsibility for recruiting students to the OUS program. And I'll tell you, that was one of the joys of my life. To be able to give young people the opportunity to have access to a wonderful education in a calm, serene setting for 4 years was one of the joys of my life. My kids often ask me what was my favorite work experience, and I always told them working at Colgate. It was always a family feel to it, and I always enjoyed it. So when the opportunity came up again to work at Colgate, I jumped at the chance. So thank you all so much for coming from so near and so far to be here tonight. It really makes a difference. Your presence on this campus is so needed, especially at this time. Young people need to see that we can go through this place and make it and be successful and be happy people. They also need to see you because they need you. And I need you to come back too. So thank you, Frank and Suzanne. I appreciate you all so much.
All right, so for people who come up tonight, there's a little box of tissues underneath here. Just FYI. We're feeling like we need them as well. One other thing that students say, this was the name of like a hashtag of one of their like group me groups, was "Oh, you blessed." And so we want to say a blessing on this meal, on this family dinner together. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for the blessings of your lives and everything that you created, the legacy that you left that we're still building on. We're so, so grateful for you. And we're in love with the OUS students who are here because they are beyond stunning. There are a number who are here who can just raise their hand, really recent grads. Please. Where's their mommy? Yeah? Okay. You meet them, you know what we're talking about of being in love, but that's how we feel with you all back here this weekend. And I haven't met a whole lot of you yet, so I hope to have a little bit of a chance to get to know some of you. But please enjoy your meal. Thank you so much to Dining Services, who has made this incredible dinner for us tonight.
Yeah, Colgate Inn's going to be calling tables, and so we'll start with table 1, and so we'll go back and forth.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy dinner. We'll be back here later.
We're blessed to have Bill Nesbitt give our blessing over our meal tonight.
Thank you.
I graduated from here and went to law school. I was a philosophy and religion major, and later in life I became a minister. So, will the Lord be with you. Lord Jesus, thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for all that you have done for all of us who are here as we lay the groundwork for those who will follow us. Thank you for the food we're about to consume. Thank you for the spiritual growth that we will experience having the energy from the food we consume. And thank you for those who helped prepare the food and plan the dinner and all the events. We ask in our name of your Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Hello, everyone. I hope that you have been enjoying your meal. We would like to have tonight be your voices. That'll be the voices that set up and structure this evening, and so we're really delighted to have some people who have agreed to speak. As a way of introduction to our first speaker, in the summer of 2014, we do summer readings now, and the summer reading that summer was Freedom Summer. So it's about the SNCC experience. And one of the things that we knew that was happening on campus already the year before and the year before that was that there was a lot of activism already happening on campus that we knew would lead eventually to something, and it did lead to something. It led to a week-long sit-in. And so if you're in our OUS house and walking around and thinking like, this is some pretty sweet digs y'all got here, and it's looking like things are pretty good. Things are pretty good. We gave a state of the OUS State of the Union yesterday morning. But all of that is really hard fought. And when I was speaking at the graduation dinner, I was comparing the 2014 class to the 1968 class because they are the students who make change on this campus, like you made change on this campus. And that change is really hard won and hard fought, and it's not an easy experience to be here at Colgate still, as you'll know from talking from any recent graduates. So as we said when we first started, we're so deeply grateful for the legacy that you have left. I would like to call up to the podium to speak with us first, Elwood S. Berry from 67 Esquire, and he's going to speak with us a little bit. He was a SNCC freedom fighter. He graduated in 67, but came back and was one of the instigators and leaders from what other students say of the 68 sit-in. So thank you so much for coming back.
Okay. I think I'm here to talk about, and I'd like to talk about, the entity that brings us to OUS today. It's certainly important that you should know that your existence is the consequence of what Colgate gentlemen did in 1969. There are three main characters: myself, Robert Elliott Fully Love III, and Robert Lee Boney. Fully Love graduated in class of 66. I, the class of 67, and Robert Lee Boney, the class of 69. He's now deceased. May God rest his soul. What a giant he was. It came to pass that the State University of New York wanted to receive its first black applicants in its history in 1969. And they hired me. I had established a weekly black tabloid in Syracuse, New York, and it gave me local celebrity. And they hired me to go and find black students worthy of a medical education. I want you to understand how big a deal this was. After all, in those years, black physicians trained at Meharry and other black institutions did not have privileges at the hospitals, at the black hospitals. They could not, on their own authority, admit patients to the hospitals. For the decision to seek out black graduates to enter the medical school, I don't happen to know whose decision it was, but it does turn out that this medical school had been the first medical school to admit women. And that tradition, I think, gave rise to them hiring me. So I go off and to Howard, find 5 students, but the 6th student I found was Dr. Gregory Threet. Well, you know, he was a friend of mine, and he graduated with Boney in 69, and we ran into each other. We just ran into each other at 15 College Street. It's still there. And I said, Greg, what are you doing? Well, you want to go to medical school? So the matter progressed, and the medical admissions committee, quite amazing. Now, you know, understand, I'm only 24. 24 is a special. Being in the early 20s is, as Seal says, when I was young and truth was paramount. So they told me, you know, you don't bring students into the school. You know, 28 beautiful white physicians sitting around this conference table, and they said, you know, we hired you to get applicants. We did not hire you. We admit anybody to this medical school, not you. And look at how awful your choices have been. There's this Greg street guy, and he doesn't even have the prerequisites, the undergraduate prerequisites to go to medical school. And you accepted him. My response was, he's real smart. You'll do fine. Well, it's not on you. And my response but was very clear. I will personally burn this campus to the ground if you fail to take these students. Okay, yeah, you're right. I didn't know. I should have figured that there was a process you had before I got here. But I'm 24 and I don't care. And you're going to take these students, or this institution, this building, and these other buildings out here are going to burn. Burn. I will do it. Oh, they went crazy. And they put me out of the meeting to review this matter and the gravity of the matter, because I was obviously very serious. I was not going to be the one to stand out there and tell black people I told to come to this college and you're in this medical school and tell them, well, I didn't really know how it worked. I told them, pack up your stuff, come to Syracuse. Hey, the game is done. I said, you're in, come, hey. So they sent me out of the meeting, and I'm sitting there, and I call Bob Boney, class of 68. And Bob and as I'm waiting, I said, Bob, Boney, we got to burn this place down. Now they got this administration building and they got these other buildings around here. I'm thinking if we had, how many, Molotov cocktails, how many would we need to put in each one? If we figured that out. And how are we going to ignite it? Well, there'll be two of us, so you run to one set of buildings and I'll run, and pretty soon it'll all be in flames. So they sent Andriotti out to me. He was one of the assistant admissions counselors to tell me that, yes, they decided to take students, but you're fired. It's cool with me. It's fair trade. I didn't mind. I recently asked my wife, I said, I know I came home and told you I was fired. We were living in a wonderful place, a beautiful home and all that. And I've been fired. And her response was, well, you're a good provider. You figure something out. So the next day, it was a Tuesday because I'm fired on a Monday. The next day, I'm walking out the door with my box of belongings, and in walks a black man, the name of James S. Smoot. And Smoot was the deputy chancellor of the State University of New York. And it's, hey, Woody, you're just the guy I'm looking for. And he briefly tells me, I got $1 million and I got to spend it before the end of the fiscal year on October 1st. And I'm 24. Can you imagine giving... And... And I'm here, I thought we could figure something out. Fine, okay. So I had to tell him I'd been fired the day before. And he said, well, I think I'm intrigued by this. Because this guy is a black guy in this white system, and he knew it as if it were a violin, and he was playing it. He was, after all, deputy chancellor of the State University of New York. He was the most powerful black man in the system. And he simply said, well, what this means is that you and I cannot just stroll into the president's office and have a conversation. I'll have to go in first and ask permission to allow you to join us. Cool with me.
When he walks into the president's office, I run to a telephone. This is before cell phones, way before cell phones. And I run to this office and I call Robert Elliott Fullylove III. He's now at Columbia. And if you have a chance to spend a couple of minutes with him, you should take advantage of it. And you would get a couple of minutes at least because you're Colgate. You're Colgate. And he will see you and he will talk to you. And you will find him that experience to be something to treasure your entire life. This guy is totally off the scale in terms of his empathy, his intelligence, his caring, his raw intelligence. I'm here at Colgate with him for 3 years. I thought of him as my personal extra brain. I'd make some outlandish statement and somebody would respond, this is a very intellectual place, I know you found. And they'd argue with me and, Floyd, well, I told him this and he doesn't seem to get it. Why don't you? And he would just, it didn't matter what I said. He'd make the argument, it would just be devastated. It would be over. 3 years, I didn't have to think. What was the point? It was a waste of time. You don't believe what I believe. Talk to Foley. This is a spectacular human being, and as a Colgate person, I encourage you. Oh God, he's going to be upset, but I encourage you to be in touch with him and speak with him. Ronnie is here, isn't she? Yes, I just want to know if I can get an amen on this. So they fight, and so we go into the meeting. Now, look, it gets tricky here because Dr. Smoot had $1 million to unload somehow or other in Nelson Rockefeller's New York. If you didn't spend all the money that had been budgeted to you in your program or programs, you were ignored. You would not have standing to say, I need more money to do this particular thing. And every director wants to be in a position in those days to argue for more money. So you got rid of that money. You had to get rid of that money. That was Dr. Smoot's position. I've got to get rid of this money. And certainly he's a black man, an elegant black man who's been 30 years in the system, and he wants to put it where it's going to benefit black people. And he had a situation where you're at the Upstate Medical Center, upstate, not New York, upstate, and you got this black kid, me. Let's see what we can do. Now, I had no notion. I've been fired. It's the next day. I just simply went to the phone and called Fullylove and said, Fully, there's $1 million on the table. Tell me, please, what do I tell these people? And he said, Harlem Prep. Just tell them we'll fashion a program of prep school and we'll get poor black students ready academically and otherwise, that is strategically ready to deal with college. We'll get them ready. We'll send them to colleges throughout the SUNY system. And I was allowed in the meeting, and I sold that. I didn't know what Harlem Prep was. $1 million? I don't have to know. And I certainly trusted Fullylove, a Colgate graduate, a Colgate gentleman, completely. And we ran it, and they gave me that money. It's just crazy. They gave me, I'm 24, and they gave me that money. Now, the history is a little tricky here because there was something called Search for Education, Elevation, and Knowledge, SEEK. And Ronnie informs that there was legislation to create that. I mean, Ronnie McFall, I'm sure. And to create that and make that something to do. But if it happened right in there between that August meeting, and we get the money, and I get Fully Love up into Syracuse, and somehow, and the only reason because I thought Search for Education and Knowledge was the invention of my media person who put out a thing to recruit students. It was only recently that it even occurred to me that it came from any place else. I was not aware of any legislation, but I wasn't aware of a lot of things. I wasn't aware of Harlem Prep or anything. It was $1 million. And so Fully Love. So okay. I don't know, chicken or egg. It's a chicken and egg situation. But we did it. Now, Bob Boney, Robert Lee Boney, was class of 68. 60, I'm sorry, thank you. Bob Boney he came out of school and became my deputy director of this entity. And it was a very short time, something in less than a year, 9 months, 10 months or so. And Bob became the first, they called them then, Higher Education Opportunity Program directors at Syracuse University. A giant. Stayed there 25 years. He put uncounted numbers of black people through Syracuse University. My wife, Norma, was his assistant director, and they did this. I had this prep school. Fully Love and I had this prep school, and we produced students every 6 months. We produced graduates, and we had to place them. Our natural market was the State University of New York. We had to place them there. Now, the schools were not obligated to take them. And that was the problem that created this network of higher education opportunity programs. Because the way we would have, say, State University of New York and Cortland thought themselves the Harvard of the State University of New York system. Okay, just as an example, because we fed about 10, 15 schools. We got 6 students here that we think should be at Cortland. And we were clear about thinking about who of our students should go to a place like that. We absolutely our students had to be successful. If they weren't successful, we were through as an entity. So we had to be very careful about matching students with particular colleges and whatever their specialties were and nuances and all of that. Fully Love was master at this stuff. He hired the counseling head, and generated this counseling program. I mean, he played the system like a Stradivarius. So we get to a point where we're replacing students. Cortland would say, well, we'll take 4. And so my job became to get the other 2 into Cortland. And that was just a grueling process, because it was all about persuasion. It was all about the art of the deal. Yeah, I know, don't say it. That's the truth. I'd call. I had a Rolodex beyond belief. I'd call instructors I'd known, I'd call them. I'd tell them, hey, how's the career? How's your wife? I got these 2 students. Could you call admissions? See if they could shoehorn in one of these students, and so we could go forward. These are great students. This is a great program. Da da da. That could take a whole day, and then I'd work up the food chain of instructors and professors that I would know at a particular college. And then I'd start with the administration at the very lowest levels. Because the point is, I couldn't take a no. You couldn't take someone saying, investing in no. And most of the time, I could shoehorn the two students in before I got all that high in the school's administration. But the solution to this problem was to wherever they're developed, the schools realized these students were coming in bypassing their admissions process. And so the school had to develop some mechanism for receiving these students and monitoring what they were doing and making it statistically to set out whether they were successful or not. Because if they weren't successful, they could cut us off and nobody would care. But if they needed a little help or whatever, and then someone had to receive them. Those became the higher education opportunity programs. Usually just one person in the admissions department. I'm sad to say, virtually every time it was a man. And, that became their task. So my thing was, let me get Maurice Haskins, Colgate 70, I believe. 69, sorry. Placed him at State University of New York at Oswego. Thank you. Placed somebody else at Portland. And then, of course, my life became a lot easier. Hey, Mo, you got it? Got it. Game over. We were very successful. Fully Love fashioned a program where indeed the educational component, the education that people needed was provided for them. And in addition, Fully Love had a strategy that he was imparting to students about being in the college. There's a process, there's a protocol. You've got to play it like this. You've got to listen to a professor in a certain way. You've got to pick up what he's telling you so that you can give it back to him on the exams. And, it was a wonderful thing. And I wasn't fired until I recruited 350 Vietnam-era veterans into the program. They told me that there were 19 Vietnam-era veterans in the 68 institutions that made up the State University of New York. And it's still obscene. How could that possibly be? And they come to the table with money. They come to the table with benefits. And we only have 19 throughout the system. So I recruited 350 students from New York City and brought them to Syracuse and housed them in Liverpool, this white apartment complex in Liverpool. And they just, all I could do, I paid the rent, and there was lots of collateral things I did not think about, like furniture and beds. I had a system to get them back and forth into Syracuse to go to school, but they were stealing picnic tables to have a meal on. No one ever got hurt. No one ever got assaulted in any way. This is way back. But no, that was just the truth. But the newspapers were referring to them as Barry's Army. And it just wasn't working for me. And Dr. Blumley fired me again. Yes, he did. I am, that's really, all I had to say about it. It was my youth. It was my youth. I basically did a two-step and finally wound up in law school. And of course, it's hard not to be dehumanized once you're transformed into a lawyer. The search for that money is so profound. And so I look back on this, and I'm amazed by you all that something I did at such a young age, somewhat impetuously, because I was instructed by a man like Fulilo. You know, I'm grateful to have been there, and I'm grateful to have been an instrument that got this process that got us you, and hopefully will continue. It's just absolutely the most wonderful thing in my life. I thank you so much for having me. So grateful.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that legacy and that story that you just told. We have a few more people that are going to come up from 70s, 80s, and 90s. And this will be the order in which they come up. Jeanette Vargas will be coming up. It's from a graduate from 77. Diane Ciccone will be coming up, graduate from 74, parent of 10. Reverend Bill Nesbitt, graduate of 71, will come up after. Lisa DeLeon, graduate of 83, will come up. And then together, Hans Ottenot, graduate of 92, and Troy Kemp, graduate of 90, will come up. So they'll each say a couple of words to think a little bit about their experiences from the past and this weekend, and kind of set the frame for the experience of this weekend. A lot of us have come in just today, and other people have been here for a couple of days now, and so we're just really grateful to have their presences and their voices.
Buenas noches. So every time I come up to Colgate, my kind of experience of Colgate changes, right? I think that, right, when I was here, I was 18 years old. And I've changed and developed a lot throughout the years, and realized how grateful I am for my experiences of Colgate, at Colgate, even though, right, it started out on a very rough path, right? Having been a first-generation Latina female and coming into the second class of females at Colgate University, and having come from an experience of where I never felt like a minority, because in the South Bronx I was never a minority. I was not a minority in Puerto Rico. In fact, in Puerto Rico, they thought I was New Yorker, I wasn't really Puerto Rican. So, right, my experience of who I was not, I never embraced this perception of self as being a minority, right? I was a majority wherever I went. And so coming to Colgate, I have to say that university scholars was not really helpful in helping me figure out and define who I was within the context of a white community, right? And a community that I really did not have any feelings about, positively or negatively, because I had never had the exposure of having been in a white community, right? I went to a black and Puerto Rican high school. My elementary school looked like me and looked like you. And so, right, the world, in fact, right, I don't know that I ever thought about the world being white and different from me, right? So coming to Colgate and coming into a situation, right, and I'm really grateful for everything that the classes before me did, right? But my reality was, personal reality, my emotional reality was very different. Right? I was not a minority. I was called a minority. I didn't know what that meant. Right? Coming into the university scholars program, there was a lot of focus on what my needs and challenges and those that I was going to face while here at Colgate versus my capacities and the things that brought me to Colgate. Right? It talked a lot about remediation. Right? And the University Scholars was not supposed to be about remediation because, after all, I was an honor student in my class. I was in the top of my class. So I didn't think I needed remediation. I learned later on that I did. But that's not who I was when I came in. Right? I came in feeling very proud of being accepted at Colgate University in a private school, right, in rural USA. My mother and father were very happy about me coming to rural USA because as they drove me up in their jalopy from the grocery store, right, there were cows. And I remember my mother sitting in the front of the vehicle with my father and thinking, oh, they didn't want me to come upstate. They wanted me to leave to Puerto Rico to study in Puerto Rico. And as they drove up here, right, they were pretty sad about bringing me here. But the more cows and barns they saw, the better they felt about me coming to Colgate. Because it was kind of ego-syntonic, right? The cows were very familiar, right? And the horses were very familiar to their experience. And I sat in the back of the car thinking, what did I just do? Right? Because I have some familiarity with cows in Puerto Rico, but I had never visited Colgate before I got here. So I didn't realize what I had gotten myself into. So I got here, right? And so I was miserable for the first year, right? I wasn't doing poorly academically, but socially and emotionally, I was struggling because I felt segregated. Right? I felt like in order to feel safe on this campus, somehow I had to be afraid of something that I did not know what it really meant, right, to be afraid of. I didn't know what it meant to be a minority. I didn't know what it meant to, right, kind of navigate the white world as it was constantly being framed. And so I and I tend to be pretty introverted anyway, so I kind of went into a cocoon and stuck to the crowd that kind of had the responsibility of keeping me safe from I don't know what. And it wasn't until my second year at Colgate that I decided, you know what, I have to figure this out, man. I have to figure it out for myself, and I have to figure out how to swim between two worlds. Right? Because after all, that's what I had learned to do throughout my life. I didn't know that. Right? It's called the process of acculturation. Right? I had to learn how to be a Puerto Rican in New York City, right, and navigate that and stay true to who I am as a Puerto Rican female. Right? And I had to figure out how to do that here at Colgate University by myself. Right? I didn't really have the role models for that. I was, other than Janet Sanchez, right? I was the only there were a couple of others in my class. So it was a tough time, but it was not until I kind of decided that I can't be scared of the unknown, right, that I realized that I had to step out of my cocoon and learn to navigate the white world, right? And I was truly, right, it was truly inspirational, and it was truly inspirational to be able to step out and realize that not everyone in the world is racist, not everyone in the world is prejudiced, right? That there's good people and bad, even within my own communities, right? And that I can find self in relationship to others. So it was by developing my capacity to swim in between two worlds, right, that I found me, right, which is what we all need to do at the age of 17 and 18 and 19 years old. I found me and was truly happy and appreciative of the opportunity that I had to come to Colgate University. Since then, right, I have two cousins that have been at Colgate, one who's sitting here today, Catherine Hernandez, and hopefully her children, at least one of them, will be here at Colgate and will also be able to navigate, right, this experience because of everything that all of you and us have done beforehand, right? So thank you.
So I just want to kind of bring the circle around to what Woody was saying. The HEOP program was the vision of Arthur O. Eves out of Buffalo, New York, and I was a HEOP student. And those of us that came to the University Scholars Program in the beginning, we were HEOP students. That was funding that the state gave schools to have people that looked like me come to their schools. So I just want to complete that circle. So as most of you know, I was in the first class of women. And so my experience is completely different than anybody else in this room, except maybe Jeanette. And I'm not going to go into that. What I really want to talk about is, many people have heard me say that I did not have a good experience here, and that's true. But it's a piece of the puzzle of who I am. And my puzzle's not complete yet. And when I make my transition, those will be able to they'll be able to tell you what my puzzle looks like, my mosaic looks like, my tapestry looks like. And this is a Colgate community, and we're all part of that tapestry that's Colgate. And so we may not know how we fit in, or what color we have, or what string we have, but just remember that as this is a piece of who you are, we are a piece of what this place is. And so remember that and pass it on. And it doesn't really matter what you do in life, you will always be a piece of this fabric that this is Colgate. Thank you.
I want to get a couple things straight. Stop calling me OG, and don't call me Reverend. You call me William a bit. Call me Reverend, then you won't tell me the truth. Yeah, you call me Nesbitt, that works. Class of 71, and I don't have any good stories. Nothing exciting happened when I was here. Save for the shooting and the sit-in, but in the first 2 years I was here, so I heard good stories. But I want to talk about loved one, and I want to talk about history. Give me 2 minutes, I'm going to be brief. I'm not a Baptist minister, I'm a Christian minister. Baptist church, if you don't speak for 45 minutes, they thought you had nothing to say. Episcopal church, after your 10 minutes, they start writing their checks. You're lost. But at any rate, one of the things I want to pass on that Colgate tends to negate is loving who you are. When we were brought here, they wanted us to assimilate. I'm not going to get right now. No way. It's not an amount of lightning cream. Cream is going to get me there. I admit that my grandmother was the daughter of a concubine, but I just didn't get her first name. So, love who you are and live who you are. Because you can't live with anybody else but who you are. And if you try, you will, I can guarantee, fail. The second thing, and something that I learned being here, and it's been said many times, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And I talked to a number of people here who said, I didn't know what happened in '68. I didn't know this went on. I'm sure, other than these events, you didn't know our first name was the Association of Black Police. You didn't know that that organization was probably in elite schools around the country, the first. That's Harvard, Yale, all around. We were the first to do it. We were the first major college to have a sit-in, which was an exciting part of my life because I was sitting in on Easter morning and I called my mother, who was a devout Southern Baptist, and I said, I'm sitting there at the dean's office. I couldn't even hear her breathe. And she couldn't imagine that I would risk a college education by doing something that foolish. So she couldn't even say anything. My father said, what's wrong with the boy? But it is important, as I shared with some people here, what went on. And a couple of people said, well, we would have been more political had we known. So I only say, love yourself, know the history. I hadn't been back here. This is my first time since I walked off the green in 1971 when my parents took my degree. And now I understand that it's important to share that story of the people who were here. And so I implore the recent graduates, don't do what I did. Because you have a story to tell and an experience to share that people who are going to follow you need to know. So they don't have to rediscover the wheel or life here in Hamilton, New York. So thank you for your time.
Greetings and salutations. I'm sitting here trying to think of what I can say that is really profound, and I've come up with nothing. So what I will say is, aluta continua. The struggle continues. What's different for me now is that I've learned that struggle is not necessarily a bad thing. So there's not as much of a negative connotation associated with struggle. My personal journey, I can say that it is through struggle that I came to understand all that I understand. And there's a whole lot that I still don't understand. And I say that coming from the perspective of a student at Colgate. I left here angry and bitter and quite the rebel. And I came to learn that that was a good thing. I became grateful for the rebellious nature that I developed while I was here. And it actually came from going on the Zambian study group with R.V. Smith. I came back completely transformed and said some things that were probably not very popular at the time. I brought the administration to task. I challenged them to do better, the faculty as well. And interestingly, that came back to serve me because when the position for the OUS director came up, and I happened to come back for an AOC function where Van Don Williams and Diane and some other folks were there. And I can't remember the exact turn of events, but I recall, I think what it was, I read from a speech that I'd written when I was a student that when I think about it now, I can't imagine how I was so brave to say what I said because it was quite radical. But some of the students who were at that same function heard what I had to say. And then when the position became available and they saw that I was a candidate, they really rallied for me to get the position because what they saw was that I was on their side and I was willing to stand up and say what needed to be said. And so I was grateful for the opportunity to take on the position because I thought that it put me in a very unique space of being able to relate to what the students were going through. And so I tried everything under the sun to have them see what it took me so long to see so that it would somehow make their journey a little less arduous than mine was. I went as far as to break into song at one of these such functions. I got up here and sang a song. in the presence of faculty, parents, administration, and students, just because I wanted the students to see, listen, we can do things that are really difficult and embarrass ourselves thoroughly, right? And it's okay, because I did embarrass myself thoroughly, but I survived. And then I came to learn that all of my efforts, while I don't think they were in vain, those students still needed to have their own process, their own journey, and there wasn't very much that I could do to change that. So everything I felt that was pulling teeth, that I couldn't get them to see, just do this and you'll be so much better off, that they had to figure it out themselves. And I think once I came to understand that, I was able to listen more to what they had to say, understand their needs, because their needs were not necessarily my needs. And so I had to step back and put my ego out of the way and stop wanting to do it right, but just be as compassionate as I could to hear what it is they wanted and to advocate for them wherever and whenever it made sense. And one of my best stories has to do with Michelle Alexander, who many of you may know. She came to me one day at my office. She and I became very close, and she was distraught. I think it was her sophomore year. She was distraught because one of her professors, an English teacher, wouldn't give her the grades that she had come accustomed to. And she was so upset, right? Because she had her personal vision of what it was she was supposed to be doing. And she was on the verge of tears. And I said, you know why that professor's not giving you the grades? Because she doesn't know who you are. And you need to show her, because she's seeing something different based on the lens that she's looking through. So your job is to show her who you are, and then she will start giving you the grades that we both know that you deserve. And so she did that, and sure enough, Margaret Maurer started giving her the A's that she deserved, and Michelle went on to graduate valedictorian, and went on to Harvard Law School, received the Watson Fellowship, summa or magna cum laude, and I take personal credit for all of that. Not really. But she did attend every meeting of Sisters of the Round Table, which was another effort of mine to do everything I could to shape these students up to where I thought they needed to be. And so she came to every meeting and she asked me, how do you do it? Because I was just her idol, right? So she said, how do you do it? I want to be like you. She was having a really hard time, like so many students. And I said, Michelle, just do it. And the next day she became a vegetarian. Literally, I'm not making this up. She became a vegetarian. She started going to the gym every day. She has since run several marathons, and she is still a vegetarian to this day. And I take personal credit for that, too. But there were so many lessons that I learned from them that empowered me and strengthened me to go on and do more things and to pass lessons on to my daughter, which I continue to do. And I'm very grateful. And I owe a lot of it to this institution as a student, as an administrator, because of the challenges that I've faced. Because out of the struggle, out of the challenge comes the growth. So I don't look down on struggle or challenge. And I can see just from the last couple of days here that those struggles and challenges still exist. And I personally welcome them. Thanks.
All right. Sapase Kijonye. That's my translator. I was speaking Creole. I thought you were going to do that for me.
I provide beats.
Okay.
We'll go with it.
My name is Hans Altenat. I'm from Miami. I'm originally from Haiti. I grew up in Liberty City, Lower Haiti area of Miami. As my mom said, you from the ghetto, okay? I came here pretty raw, and probably still. But I want you to know that when you vacation in South Florida, you visit South Beach, there's a community called Sunny Isles Beach, which I've been the city attorney for about 12 years. I want you to know that one of your alumni, OUS, helped create that community. I want you to know that. And there's another community called Miami Gardens in the state of Florida, the largest African American community. I want you to know one of your alumni helped create that community. Because when I came up here, I didn't know myself. Went to predominantly black public school. I came here lost. Came here miseducated. But OUS provided me with the opportunity to get educated. It taught me that Christopher Columbus did not discover America. Also taught me that Elvis Presley did not discover rock and roll. But more importantly, I was one of the few football players who live in HRC. And I wanted to live in HRC. There was a purpose behind it. Because I saw a division between the football players and the non-football players, black males on this campus. I wanted to bridge that gap. And really, you know, I was hearing both sides. And I found the reason why we weren't getting along was silly. It was about women. And I'm from Miami. I said, look, player, come to Miami, you're going to start arguing about women. And with the help of Dean Rice, we were able to create, and I'm so proud of the fact that we're able to get a bunch of brothers together. We had a black male meeting. Maybe 15, 20 of us in HRC sat down and talked about our differences. Some of us cried because there was no reason for us to be fighting against each other. And after that, we all got along better. We still probably beef about female, but we got along. But more importantly, I felt a need that some of my non-football player friends felt like they couldn't party downtown. They didn't want to go to. I said, come on with me. You'll get in. If not, tell me you Troy Kemp or Kenny Ginn. Okay? So what Colgate has done for me is made me a stronger person. I left here with the will to make my community better. I went back home. And from that day I graduated Colgate University in 1992. I have continued to try to make my community better because of the lessons I learned here. Go ahead.
I promised to be brief, but I did grow up in a Baptist church, so that Baptist comment, I'm just going to take that personally. All right, my name is Troy Kemp, and class of, yeah, there it is. Amen. All right, so class of 90. And, you know, it's interesting because when I sort of found Colgate by accident. I grew up as a migrant worker. And, you know, when I see people, I tell them, I say, when you see fruits and vegetables in the grocery store, those were my friends back in the day. I used to talk to them and then eat them later. You know what I mean? Being in the field. So I said it was a little bit different. But you know, when I came here, here's the interesting thing. I told some people earlier that I came to this school to have a 180-degree different experience than what I had. You know, I knew how to eat government cheese. I knew how to make $1 out of 15 cents. I knew how to hustle and sell T-shirts and whatever I needed to do to make things happen. But I needed to put it in a different place to learn a different language. I know they have a language requirement, Spanish or Latin or so forth, but there's another language that you have to learn. It's how the world works. And here's an example. I got lost on a golf course one time. I was playing with a bunch of brothers high-level brothers, and they brought me out to the golf course. We were doing this tournament, and I came there late because I had a speaking engagement earlier that day. So I show up, and I said, where's my team? They said, they're on hole 13. I said, well, which way is hole 13? They gave me this nice golf cart and all this, and I'm riding around, and I'm driving. They said, it's over that way. So I start driving. And one thing you don't want to do on a golf course is look like you shouldn't be there. So I'm driving, and I'm coming back across people's green and stuff they're trying to hit. They go, what's this brother doing out here? See, black folks shouldn't be out here, I'm telling you, right? There's all black folks out there anyway, but I was the one that was looking crazy. So I finally found this hole, and my team I couldn't find, and he said, hey, man, just come with us. And I said, well, let me ask you this. I can't find the hole I'm supposed to be on. There are no hole numbers out here. And he said, well, let me let you in on something. When you play on these exclusive courses, they don't have hole numbers. You got to play with somebody who's a member. You got to play with somebody who knows where the holes are. And so the thing that happened for me in my life and how Colgate helped transform me is I needed to play golf with the people who know the holes were, right? Because that's what we're missing. And now here's the interesting thing. You know where the holes are. And so these ones that are coming behind us, that's why this program is so critical and crucial. So there's a term for this because there's a world that's trying to define these young men and young women, and they need to learn to read and find themselves in that world. And so we had to do it, right? So there's a term, deja vu is when you see things, new things, in a familiar way. I've been there before. I feel like I knew them. But then there's a term that I learned to use from Adam Grant's book, Originals, is vujade. And vujade is when you see ordinary things in a new way. And so the first thing you had to do is look in the mirror and see yourself differently. And so for me, Colgate taught me how to have a little vujade and how to create what's next. Because guess what? I know it was stressful, and I'm sorry for the folks who had a really tough time here. But I was used to a tough time before I came here. And guess what? If I give you a Ferrari right now and says, parked outside, it's yours, you're going to be stressed. I know you're going to like it, but you're going to be stressed because you might not know how to drive it. You got to put some insurance on it. You're going to think somebody said you stole it, right? But here's my point. Even though there's a good thing, change equals stress anyway, right? So the deal is, you got to sometimes embrace that, and I learned to embrace that, and I also knew, again, it's about putting yourself around people who are the most creative, the people who have access to things that we want to have access to, so now we can help give that access, like this gentleman helped with the medical school. That's what this thing is about. So guess what? Whatever the game is, you know, football was hard. I remember having a down punch at the end of practice where I couldn't even breathe and I kept running. But I'm thankful that I had that moment because guess what? I tell people right now, they said, man, you work so much, what's wrong? I said, listen, as long as the air conditioning is on in here, I'm good to go. Because I worked in the field. So again, that work that we did, we have to help these young folks understand that it is a part of the process. You got to go through fire to make steel, and that's how it works. So I want to thank you all. I'm not an official alum, but I was in the middle of that debate right there, and I walked into a fire. I didn't know there was this rift between brothers, but here's the thing, there doesn't need to be. So I hope that part of the program also helps these kids who are OUS folks and folks who come in a little different way. We all the same, right? We bleed the same way, so we need to act like we know better. So I want to thank y'all for it. Ronnie, for inviting me to be here, because, you know, I said, can I come? I'm going to be here. She said, sure, you can come, but see, y'all have to understand. For a brother, I went to this same school, and I'm like feeling like an alien sometimes. Y'all follow me? So again, thank you for this. Thank you for these kind words. Thanks for that inspiration. Everybody's got their version of it. And I'm sorry I took too long, but we're going to enjoy the rest of this night, right? All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you for all those words. We're going to move on to some recognitions. The first group we'd like to recognize tonight is the Association of Black Collegians who are here. For all of these different groups that we recognize tonight, there might be some people here who have come in late and are on our list. So please, if you are someone who has come in and are part of these groups, let us know, and we would like to recognize you. If you haven't read Tracy Huck's, Provost, Dean of the Faculty, Tracy Huck's books, Yoruba Traditions and African American Religious Nationalism, you should. It's one of the most gorgeous books written. So it's a full academic monograph, and yet her voice is so stunningly present. And one of the things that we have borrowed from this book is an epigraph to her acknowledgments, and it's from Sweet Honey in the Rock. We acknowledge that we are here today because of something someone did before we came. And we want to acknowledge the Association of Black Collegians for everything that you did. We have 2 small gifts for this group, this very special group. And so I'm going to read the names, and Frank will offer the gifts that we have. So first, Dr. Michael Barnes, 73, if you will come forward and then stay forward. Elwood Berry, class of 67. Please stand up. H. Leroy Cody, class of 71. Louis Gamble II, class of 72. Maceo Giles, class of 70. The not Reverend William Nesbitt, class of 71. Ernest Pyle, class of 71. Dr. Gregory Threet, class of 69. And the Honorable Patrick White, class of 73. Is there anyone that we've missed that we should bring up? Please come up. Herb Brooks, class of 72. Please come up. And two, Diane Ciccone, class of 74.
Jeanette Burgos.
And Jeanette Burgess, class of 77. I think that Gerard would love to get a photograph of everyone together.
Is the battery working? That's an inside joke.
The battery not working. Yeah. Here we go. Here we go. 2 more. Perfect. Thank you.
And our next recognition is to present our former directors of OUS. If I call your name, please come up, and we'll have something for you as well. First, Lisa De Leon, class of 83. Professor Frank Fry, director. We also want to recognize Mr. Maceo Giles, class of 70, who is also a former director, who's not here tonight with us. Dean Aurelius Henderson, parent 17, parent 17, and parent 22. And Professor Helene Julienne. And if we may have a photo op here. And also Professor Al Strand, who's also not here tonight.
We'd like to recognize the current and former program faculty from OUS to please come up as well. Professor April Baptiste. Professor Harvey Sindima. Professor Jeff Spires. Professor Jun Yoshino.
And now our program coordinator, Romelia, is going to help at each table to ask alumni of the program to come up so that we can also present you with a gift as well. Tracy, Dean Hawk, so first. Woo! Oh, yeah. So we're going to ask you to say your name and your class year, please.
Tracy Hucks, class of 1987 with my bachelor's, class of 1990 with my master's, philosophy and religion.
Richard Rivera, class of 1986.
Minnie Roman, Elminia, class of 86.
I'm Donovan Anderson, class of 1986.
How are you guys? Anthony Reyna, class of 2008.
Hans Altenant, class of 1992.
Hi, Janice Bab, 08.
Portia Albert, class of 08.
Kelechi Ogu, class of 08. Gabriella Barrow, class of 2009. Jessica Theodore, class of 08.
Catherine Robinson, class of 91.
Diane Chicone, class of 1974.
Kenny Gamble, class of 1988.
Janet Burgos, class of 77.
Lisa De Leon, aka Jelani, class of 83.
Cynthia Duncan Joseph, class of 1993.
Edna Cotto, class of 2005.
Flora Powell Quevedo, class of 02.
Luis Matos, class of 78.
Christine Rivera, class of 1996.
Romelia Loaiza, class of 2017.
Deniston Dimension Reed, class of 1994.
Paul Hughes, class of 92.
The Tony Horn, class of 89.
everybody? Yeah. Yeah, I think we would like to take a group picture. Probably photographer. Yeah, if we can just get a little closer. Around the podium. I'll take the podium. That's that.
I don't know where it's voting. We all voting. Okay, that's what I thought.
You're being blocked on my
There we go.
Wait, there's a lot of alum that haven't come up.
I don't think they're online. Oh, they're not
There we go. 1, 2, 3. There we go again. 1, 2, 3.
Are you tickling me? What's
There we go again.
What's going on? Good job, Kelly.
That battery's working.
1, 2, 3. There we go. One more. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
One last.
Okay.
Hello.
So thank you so much, dear friends. This is our request for you to marry us. Will you OUSS? Yes, so thank you, Jeanette. We saw some really amazing pins downtown, and we were like, no, not those pins, not the bookstore pins. We need our own. And so we created our own that are OUS pins with little gold 50th that's there in these. So we hope that you will marry us and be with us forever. Before I introduce our last speaker who will offer the closing remarks, I want to recognize all the people who aren't here today. Many classmates who aren't here, former directors, people who really wanted to be here, who spoke with Ronnie and wanted to make sure that she knew how much they wanted to be here and that the rest of us also knew. But in particular, we'd like to recognize Charles Rice, who passed away and who was such a critical person for the history of this program and for the legacy of so many people who have gone through this program. And I have heard, I think, from Cynthia that his son is getting married very shortly. And so we hold him very closely in our hearts and his family in our hearts. As his son moves on to this next very important stage without his dad, but also that he is not with us, and we very much like to remember him. The last person who will speak is our provost and dean of the faculty, who just came back this year, Tracy Hucks, class of 87 for her bachelor's degree and class of 90 for her master's, and she went on to Harvard to do a master's and PhD, and she has taught at other illustrious small schools that we won't mention because they're our competitors. But we're so delighted that she is back here. I have said before yesterday that she's the second most powerful person here on this campus, underneath President Casey, but I would say she is the most powerful spiritual person on this campus, and her spirit guides us and will guide us through the future. And we are so blessed and grateful to have her here. When she walks across campus, the students just stare. And I've said to her a couple of times, like, she has like superstar movie star status on this campus. One, just because of who she is and where she has been and what she has created and made, and that the students look to her. But also because of that deep spiritual understanding and presence that she brings as a listener, as this kind of generous person who includes everyone. She's so utterly inclusive. So we're so delighted that she will offer the closing remarks tonight, and so we'll give her the last voice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I was sitting at my table reflecting on how far I have come in my life. I was born in Harlem Hospital. I grew up in Harlem, the part they call El Barrio, Cerca de la Maqueta, if you know New York. I attended James Weldon Johnson Elementary School, PS 57. And it is from there where my intellectual birth began. And every week at Assembly, we had to sing that great song that James Weldon Johnson penned, which became known as the Negro Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, and which is and will always be my favorite song. When I depart this earth, I want my family to know that is the song that I want to be the last one to sing as I go to meet the ancestors. And I especially love the part that often people overlook, which is the second stanza. They'll sing the first and the third, but the ancestral piece of that song is really in the second, when it says, "Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place where our fathers and mothers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading a path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from a gloomy past, still now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast." And we have left a bright star here at Colgate. And I want us to take that bright star with us and continue to let that be part of the light of your life. I continue to have that in me here as provost and dean of the faculty, but I know that that light is connected to all of your light and connected to a light that goes far in the past before us. And I thank you, and I thank the ancestors, and I thank God for that light. I was asked to bring brief closing remarks, and on this occasion of a closing, I'm hoping that it will be a beginning, a new beginning. A beginning for those ones who are a part of this extraordinary legacy of Black collegians, of HEOP, of university scholars, of OUS, of alumni of color network. As we enter into the bicentennial, I want you to know that President Casey and me need you to be a part of the next century here. I need you to get your email addresses right here with Colgate, get your home addresses so that we can contact you next year, because we need all of that updated so you can continue to be a part of this Colgate network. Colgate is a crucial part of all of our past histories. Some of your best intellectual moments and best friends and companions came from being at this institution. And we need you to continue to stay connected and continue to be central to Colgate's legacy. As you depart tomorrow and go back to your respective lives, know that I will be here, President Casey will be here, Diane will be here, Veronica will be here, Dennison will be here on the Board of Trustees, faculty, staff, and students working to make sure that Colgate realizes its biggest dreams and actualizes its fullest potential. And we need you to know, and I need to know, that you have my back and have our back as we continue to do that. Doing what you can for the future legacy of your alma mater. You remember the last time when you walked across that stage, and it was Colgate, alma mater, fairest theme of all our lays. Colgate, alma mater, ever blessed thy days. And this institution is blessed because of you, and because of all of who is not here but represented in this room as part of this community. And we want you, I want you, to continue to stay connected to this place. And my sense is, and I'm checking with Veronica, do we have a We Funk party tonight? Oh. So I have to then close by inviting you to the after party. A We Funk party. The Colgate organization that got its name from the group who? Parliament and the Funkadelic. Yes. When they said in their song, and this was a student organization, We Funk, and it says, welcome to station WEFUNK. This is the words in the song. Welcome to station WEFUNK, better known as We Funk, or better still, the Mothership Connection. Home of the extraterrestrial brothers, dealers of funky music, P-Funk, Uncut Funk, The Bomb, coming to you directly from the mothership, top of the chocolate Milky Way. 500,000 kilowatts of P-Funk power, so kick back, dig, while we do it to you in your ears.
I went to school with them. They are from Plainfield, New Jersey.
So for all of the OGs who can still hang out tonight, for the Soul Patrol who still got some party left in them, and for all of y'all who can stay up past 9 o'clock, we invite you to have a mothership connection here at Colgate University. And some of you may know that I had a radio show. So it was like the WRCU-FM in Hamilton. So sit back and enjoy the mothership connection. As we have, what do they call that? The chocolate Milky Way. So where will the We Funk party be at what time? 11 o'clock, right here. They're going to turn the blue light on. And we're going to party to the break of dawn. So I want to thank you as you travel back. Take the best of Colgate that was with you. Remember us here. Diane says next year we're going to have an all-class reunion. So tell your friends. And all the ones that said, tell Tracy I said hi, tell them to come here and tell me themselves that I'm expected. And we're going to have a great gathering next year. And in the words of Don Cornelius, it's going to be a stone gas honey. So for our generation, for many generations, so always imparting, we wish you love at Colgate. Peace and